The Packers kicker situation has been a problem for the majority of this season. And yesterday, Havrisik comes into play once again and unfortunately misses 2 extra points. Now, it was very windy. I do think that was a large factor in him missing these 2 kicks. And he also, on the second kick, or it was either the second or third kick, Matt LaFleur brought up in his press conference how the entire operation was a little bit messed up, where they have him kick in the laces, where, of course, you don't want that to be the case if you're the kicker. But still, regardless, Havrisik misses 2 extra points, which, you really don't want to see. And I think looking back to last season, the Packers, they move on from Anders Carlson. They bring in Narveson, and Narveson struggled, so they then bring in Brandon McManus. And once they brought in McManus, he was incredibly consistent. He made 91.3% of his field goals last year, 21 of 23. And so there's no, telling why the Packers decided to give him that 3-year, about $15 million deal this offseason, because he was one of the most consistent kickers in the NFL. And so I was totally on board with that. I thought, why not? And then so far this season, you have a couple of those blocked kicks early on this season. Then he gets the quad injury. And currently looking at McManus' stats, he's currently 11 of 17, 64.7%. So that's a major dip down from where he was last year. And if we look at his entire career, his current rate, field goal percentage of what kicks he's made, as I said, 64.7%. Looking at his entire career here on PFF, he has never kicked at this low of a rate. The closest was his rookie year, where he made 69.2% of field goals. But looking at his entire career, he was 88.9%, 85.3, 75, 80, 85.3, 82.4, 83.9, 77.8, 81.1, and then 91.3 last year. And so he's been a pretty consistent kicker, overall 81.7% on his career. And I think now the question becomes, what are the Packers going to do in the future? Now, when it comes to McManus' injury, he was added on Saturday back to the injury report after it seemed like he was maybe coming out of that injury. And Matt LaFleur was asked today in the press conference if this was an IR situation. He said it's not an IR situation, not at all. And so it looks like McManus will be healthy sometime soon. He's at least not going to be put on the IR, which means he won't miss, those 4 games. But now the Packers do have a decision to make. This is where I am right now on this entire situation. I just think with McManus, you have to allow him to become completely healthy before he goes out there, because it sounds like he was potentially, trying to push through the injury a little bit. And I think that, with where the Packers are in their season, 6-3-1, I think you need to be, play a little safer and just allow him to be completely healed and fully ready to go before you put him back out there, so that way he does not have to deal with potentially re-aggravating this injury. Stick with Havrisik. It's hard to know how good Havrisik is, because he was really good before this past game, but he still hasn't, played a ton of football during his career, as opposed to McManus, who has played a lot of football. And I think a lot of people are questioning Matt LaFleur and why he stuck with McManus for so long. And it sounded like a lot of what he was saying in practice, that was a major factor. So we have no idea what Havrisik was looking like at practice. Maybe he was super inconsistent, and that's why the Packers, were trying to play McManus through that injury a little bit. We don't exactly know the entire situation there. But I would say main thing, allow McManus to be fully healed. And I do think that, when you add up all the kicks he's missed, 6 different ones, a lot of them are when he was dealing with an injury. One of them is that 64 or so yard field goal, which he misses, which is tough to make for anyone. And then you have a couple blocked kicks early in the season. So I still don't think that, it necessarily means that McManus is going to struggle the rest of the year. I think once he gets healthy, we could see him come back and be more consistent. That could definitely be the case. Now, if he came back and kept struggling, maybe you try Havrisik. It's just a tough spot to be in, where last year the Packers, once McManus came in, we were no longer dealing with these consistent kicker problems as we were dealing with during, Anders Carlson's time here in Green Bay. So hopefully all of this will get solved, and by season's end, we have someone kicking the ball consistently. If you guys want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.